The edge of extinction. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Earth's last remaining orbital defense station, her weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass as she watched another colony ship burn up in the atmosphere. The Galactic Empire's latest attack had come without warning, just like all the others. She clenched her fists, remembering the Empire's ambassador's words during their last diplomatic meeting: humans are too afraid to fight, too weak to resist, and too primitive to matter. The memory made her blood boil, but she maintained her composure. That's what humans did best: they adapted, they planned, and they survived. While the Empire saw their diplomatic efforts as weakness, humanity was buying time, gathering intelligence, and preparing for a war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Admiral, we've received the latest reports from the Proxima Centauri outpost," Lieutenant Rodriguez announced, his voice tight with concern. "The Empire has begun systematic strip mining of the colony. They're using our people as forced labor." Chen turned away from the window, her dark eyes reflecting the holographic display that materialized before her. The images showed hundreds of humans in containment suits, working under the harsh supervision of the Empire's biomechanical enforcers. The Empire's troops, with their characteristic purple-scaled armor and multiple sets of arms, towered over the human workers. "How many colonies have we lost now?" she asked, though she knew the answer all too well. 17 in the past month alone, Admiral. The Empire's expansion rate has increased by 300% since they first encountered us. They're treating this as a routine conquest. Chen allowed herself a grim smile. "And that's exactly what we wanted them to think, Lieutenant. Initiate Protocol Lazarus. It's time to show them why underestimating humanity was their biggest mistake." Across the solar system, hidden installations began powering up. Deep within asteroid mines, beneath the surfaces of moons, and in the clouds of gas giants, humanity's secret weapon stirred to life. Project Aegis, the culmination of 15 years of clandestine research and development, was about to change the course of the war. The project had started the day after first contact, when humanity realized just how outmatched they were technologically. Instead of attempting to match the Empire's brute force approach, Earth's best minds had worked on something entirely different, a way to turn the Empire's own technology against them. "Begin transmission to all resistance cells," Chen ordered. "Authentication code, Phoenix Rising." Throughout human space, hidden quantum communicators activated. The message was simple: the sun rises at dawn. To the Empire's surveillance systems, it appeared to be nothing more than random background radiation, but to the scattered remains of humanity's military forces, it was the signal they'd been waiting for. Dr. Maya Patel, the lead scientist of Project Aegis, stood in her underground laboratory on Mars, watching as her life's work came to fruition. The nanite swarms they'd developed were unlike anything the Empire had encountered before. While the Empire relied on brute force and overwhelming firepower, humanity had gone microscopic. "Final diagnostics complete," she announced to her team. "The neural interface is stable, and the swarms are responding to commands. We can begin deployment whenever Admiral Chen gives the order." The nanites were humanity's answer to the Empire's technological superiority. Designed to infiltrate and reprogram the Empire's biomechanical systems, they were invisible to standard detection methods. Each nanite contained a quantum processor capable of adapting to new situations and sharing information with the entire swarm. Back on the orbital station, Admiral Chen received Dr. Patel's confirmation. Everything was in place. The Empire thought they were dealing with a primitive species too afraid to fight back. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, send word to all remaining fleet commanders. Operation Trojan Horse begins in 6 hours. Have our sleeper agents in position by then." For months, humans had allowed themselves to be captured, each one carrying dormant nanite colonies in their bloodstream. The Empire's slave labor camps were about to become ground zero for humanity's counterattack. The Empire's supreme commander, High Lord Vexthor, sat on his crystalline throne aboard the flagship, Eternal Dominion, reviewing reports of the human conquests with disinterest. These creatures were proving to be the easiest species they'd ever subjugated. Their attempts at diplomacy were laughable, their military resistance negligible. "My lord," his chief strategist interrupted, "we've detected some unusual energy signatures from the human colonies. They appear to be..." The strategist never finished his sentence. Throughout the ship, Empire soldiers began convulsing as the nanites, carried aboard by human slaves, activated simultaneously. The microscopic machines swarmed through their biomechanical armor, rewriting protocols and seizing control of their augmented nervous systems. Admiral Chen watched the first reports come in with grim satisfaction. Across Empire space, their mighty warships were falling silent as the nanite swarm spread from ship to ship, colony to colony. The Empire's greatest strength, their reliance on biomechanical technology, had become their greatest weakness. "Status report," she demanded. "Nanite swarms operating at 98% efficiency, Admiral. Empire forces are being neutralized system by system. Their neural networks are completely compromised. The Empire's vast communication network, which they had used to broadcast their propaganda about human weakness, now carried a different message. Every screen, every holographic projector, every neural implant displayed the same image, a phoenix rising from ashes, with words in Earth standard below it, "The weak have inherited the stars." High Lord Vexthor watched in horror as his mighty fleet turned against itself. Ships fired upon their own kind, slave camps liberated themselves, and the carefully maintained order of the Empire crumbled. In his last moments of consciousness, as the nanites reached his neural implants, he finally understood, humanity's apparent weakness had been their greatest deception. The war that the Empire thought would be a simple conquest became known as the 6-Hour Revolution. Humanity's response to their aggression wasn't the conventional war they had expected. Instead, it was a precisely executed takeover that turned the Empire's own technology against them. Dr. Patel's nanites didn't just disable the Empire's forces, they reprogrammed them. Empire soldiers found themselves unable to harm humans, their neural implants rewritten to recognize them as allies rather than enemies. The same technology that had made the Empire so powerful now ensured their complete submission. Admiral Chen stood once again at the observation deck, but this time she watched as former Empire ships, now under human control, formed up in defensive formations around Earth. The Empire's attempt to subjugate humanity had instead given them control over the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. "Send word to all recovered colonies," she ordered. "Begin Phase 2 of the operation. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity isn't just capable of defending itself, we're capable of building a better empire than the one we just defeated." The first part of humanity's emergence onto the galactic stage was complete. They had turned the Empire's contempt into their greatest advantage, using their enemies' assumptions about human weakness to orchestrate the most efficient conquest in galactic history. But Admiral Chen knew this was just the beginning. The real challenge would be proving that humanity could rule better than their predecessors. As she looked out at the stars, she couldn't help but smile. The Empire had mocked humanity's fear, never realizing that what they perceived as fear was actually patience, and that patience had just changed the galaxy forever. Lieutenant Rodriguez approached with a new report. "Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from other species that were under Empire control. They're requesting diplomatic meetings." "Set up a conference," Chen replied. "It's time to show the galaxy what humanity is really capable of when we're not pretending to be weak." The age of the Empire was over. The age of humanity had begun, ushered in not with the bang of weapons, but with the whisper of microscopic machines and the power of human ingenuity. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. Empire of Ashes. The celebration of victory lasted exactly 3 days before the true magnitude of humanity's challenge became apparent. Admiral Chen sat in what had once been High Lord Vexthor's command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the status of over 10,000 formerly Empire-controlled worlds. The nanite revolution had given humanity control, but keeping it was proving to be an entirely different challenge. Another uprising on Centauri Prime, reported Captain Maya Williams, formerly of Earth's Resistance, now head of crisis management. The local Empire loyalists are destroying their own neural implants to resist the nanite control protocols. Chen massaged her temples, feeling the weight of command more heavily than ever. How many casualties? None yet, but they've taken control of a planetary defense installation. They're threatening to trigger its self-destruct sequence if we don't withdraw from the system. The Admiral stood, walking to the massive viewing window that showed the sprawling cityscape of the Empire's former capital world. The crystalline spires and biomechanical architecture still took her breath away, even after weeks of occupying it. They'd rather die than live under human rule. The irony isn't lost on me. Dr. Patel's voice came through the command center's communication system. Admiral, I may have a solution. The nanites were designed to adapt. We can modify their protocols to offer more autonomy to the controlled populations. Give them the illusion of free will while maintaining essential restrictions. That sounds dangerously close to what the Empire did to other species, Chen replied, her voice sharp. We're supposed to be better than them. With respect, Admiral, Dr. Patel continued, we need to stabilize the situation before we can implement any long-term reforms. The Empire's infrastructure is vast and interconnected. If too many systems reject our control at once, we could see cascade failures across entire sectors. The room fell silent as Chen considered their options. Humanity had won their freedom and gained control of the most powerful civilization in known space, but victory had come with responsibilities they weren't fully prepared for. The Empire had ruled through fear and technological dominance. Humanity needed to find a different way. What about the other subjugated species? Chen asked. Have we received any more diplomatic requests? Captain Williams brought up a new holographic display. 17 major species have requested meetings. The Arcturus Confederation seems particularly eager to establish relations. They were one of the few species that maintained some autonomy under Empire rule. Because they were useful, Chen commented. The Empire's best shipwrights came from Arcturus. Schedule a meeting with their representatives first. We need allies, not subjects. The next few hours were spent coordinating responses to various crises across their newly acquired territory. The Empire had controlled nearly a quarter of the known galaxy, and every system seemed to present unique challenges. Some worlds celebrated their liberation, while others viewed humanity's victory with suspicion or outright hostility. Dr. Patel's team worked tirelessly to refine the nanite control systems. The microscopic machines that had given humanity their victory needed constant updating to prevent the Empire's remnant forces from finding ways to resist them. It was a technological arms race, but this time, humanity had the advantage. Admiral, a young lieutenant interrupted, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the Empire's forbidden archives. The security systems are activating themselves. Chen's blood ran cold. The Empire's forbidden archives were supposed to contain their most dangerous technological secrets, locked away even from their own leadership. The nanite revolution hadn't been able to penetrate its defenses. Get Dr. Patel down there immediately. Full containment protocols. And someone find me everything we have on the Empire's archive security systems. But it was already too late. Throughout the capital city, ancient systems were awakening. The ground itself seemed to pulse with energy as long-dormant machines stirred to life. The Empire, it seemed, had left one final surprise for anyone who dared to conquer them. Multiple breaches detected in the lower levels, Captain Williams reported, her voice steady despite the chaos. Something's coming up through the old maintenance tunnels. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Chen watched as massive forms began emerging from the ground, tearing through the city streets. They were machines, but unlike any the Empire had used. These were older, more primitive, and completely autonomous. They weren't controlled by neural networks or biological components, which meant the nanites had no way to affect them. This is what they were afraid of, Chen realized. The Empire didn't just conquer other species, they were running from something. And we just woke it up. The mechanical monstrosities began systematically attacking everything in sight, showing no distinction between human-controlled forces and Empire loyalists. Their weapons cut through energy shields as if they didn't exist, and their armor seemed to absorb or reflect everything fired at them. All forces, fall back to designated safe zones, Chen ordered. Evacuate civilians first, both human and Empire. Captain Williams, get me a secure channel to Earth. Dr. Patel, I need options. The nanites might not work on these things, but there has to be something we can use against them. As the evacuation began, Chen couldn't help but appreciate the irony. Humanity had conquered the Empire only to face an even greater threat. But this time, they weren't starting from a position of weakness. They had the Empire's resources, technology, and knowledge at their disposal. Admiral, Dr. Patel's voice came through again, I've been analyzing the energy signatures. These machines, they're ancient. Pre-Empire ancient. And they're not just weapons, they're terraforming devices gone rogue. Terraforming? Chen asked, watching as one of the machines began systematically destroying a sector of the city. They're not terraforming anything. They're just destroying. No, look closer, Dr. Patel insisted. The destruction has a pattern. They're trying to revert the environment to something specific. Something that existed before the Empire built their cities. Chen studied the holographic displays, and slowly, the pattern emerged. The machines weren't just destroying, they were transforming the environment, step by step, into something alien and hostile to both humans and the Empire's species. How long? Chen asked. Before they transformed the entire capital. Hours. Before they spread to other worlds. Days at most. These things can use the Empire's own transportation networks against us. Chen made her decision. Begin immediate evacuation of all Earth forces from the capital. Alert all worlds in Empire space to be ready for planetary quarantine protocols. And get me everything we have on the Empire's early history. If they beat these things once, we need to figure out how. As the evacuation ships began lifting off from the capital world, Chen took one last look at the city they'd so recently conquered. The Empire's mighty seat of power was being unmade before her eyes, transformed by ancient machines into something unprecedented. Send word to the Arcturus Confederation, she ordered. Tell them we need those shipwrights. And contact every other species that's requested diplomatic relations. Tell them humanity is calling a summit. If these machines are what the Empire was running from, we're going to need all the help we can get. The Empire had mocked humanity's fear, never realizing that fear was a rational response to a dangerous universe. Now, facing an enemy that had scared even the Empire, humanity would need to prove that their greatest strength wasn't just their ability to conquer, but their ability to unite against a common threat. As her ship broke atmosphere, Chen watched the capital city recede beneath them, the ancient machines continuing their inexorable work. Humanity had won their war against the Empire, but they had inadvertently started something much bigger. The real test of their species wasn't going to be how they handled victory, but how they faced this new, implacable enemy. Dr. Patel, she said, how quickly can you modify the nanites to communicate with other species' technology? If we're going to fight these things, we need to be able to coordinate with everyone who's willing to help. It's possible, Patel replied, but it will take time. The nanites were designed specifically to work with Empire tech. Then we'll have to work faster than them. Because right now, we're the only thing standing between those machines and the rest of the galaxy. And I intend to prove that humanity's weakness for cooperation is actually our greatest strength. The ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving behind a world being unmade by ancient machines. Humanity had claimed the Empire's throne, only to find it came with enemies they never knew existed. But this time, they weren't facing the threat alone, and that might make all the difference. The rising tide. The Arcturus shipyards stretched across the orbit of a dying star, a testament to engineering on a scale humanity had never achieved on its own. Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel, New Dawn, watching as representatives from 27 formerly subjugated species filed into the emergency summit chamber. The Arcturians have agreed to share their complete shipbuilding database, Dr. Patel reported, her hologram flickering slightly due to interference from the shipyard's massive energy fields. But there's a catch, they want access to our nanite technology. Chen had expected this. Every species at the summit wanted something, and the nanites were humanity's most valuable bargaining chip. What about the ancient machine signals? Have you made any progress decoding them? Some, Patel replied, bringing up a complex series of waveforms. They're not just terraforming machines. They're trying to recreate specific conditions that existed nearly 1 million years ago. Before the Empire, before any of our civilizations. The summit chamber buzzed with nervous energy as Chen took her place at the central podium. The gathered representatives were a stunning display of galactic diversity, crystalline beings from the Vega system, gaseous intelligences contained in specialized environment suits, and dozens of other forms of life that had all suffered under Empire rule. 3 days ago, Chen began, we lost contact with the 47th colony world to fall to the ancient machines. Traditional weapons are useless. Planetary shields fail. And now we've confirmed they're spreading through natural wormholes we didn't even know existed. The chamber erupted in concerned murmurs. A towering Arcturian, their crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns, stepped forward. The Empire spoke of the Ancient Ones in their earliest records. They built the machines to transform worlds, to make the galaxy suitable for their return. The Empire rose to power by finding a way to stop them, to lock them away. And now we've accidentally released them, Chen finished. But we also have something the Empire never had, unity. They ruled through fear and domination. We have a chance to face this threat together, as equals. Dr. Patel's research team had made a breakthrough in understanding the ancient machines' purpose. They weren't simply terraforming planets, they were preparing them for the return of their creators, a species so ancient they had no name in any surviving record. The nanites can be modified to interface with any technology in this room, Chen continued. We're offering to share this technology, to create a unified defense network. But we need your help to understand what we're fighting. The Arcturian delegation shared a complex series of light patterns before responding. Our archives contain records of the Empire's early battles against the machines. We'll share them, but we have a condition beyond the nanites. We want humanity to acknowledge our independence formally. No more empire, no more human dominion. A true alliance of equals. Chen didn't hesitate. Agreed. The same offer extends to every species represented here. We didn't defeat the Empire to become them. We're offering partnership, not dominion. The next hours were filled with intense negotiations as each species brought their own knowledge and resources to the table. The gaseous Vega entities could survive in environments the machines created, offering valuable intelligence. The crystalline Arcturian shipbuilding knowledge could be combined with human nanite technology to create vessels capable of fighting the ancient threat. But it was the delegation from the Proxima system that provided the most crucial piece of information. Their ancestors had been archivists for the Empire, keeping records that even the Empire's highest lords couldn't access. The machines aren't just terraforming, their representative explained, their telepathic words appearing as text in everyone's preferred language. They're building something. Every world they transform becomes part of a larger pattern. We've analyzed the configurations of the 47 fallen worlds. The holographic display showed the transformed worlds arranged in a specific geometric pattern. Chen felt her blood run cold as she realized what she was seeing. It's a key. They're not just preparing for their creator's return, they're opening a door. Dr. Patel's voice cut through the chamber. Admiral, we're detecting massive energy spikes from the fallen worlds. The pattern, it's accelerating the transformation process. We have weeks at most before they complete whatever they're building. The chamber erupted in chaos as representatives argued about the best course of action. Some advocated for immediate military action against the transformed worlds. Others suggested evacuating to distant galaxies. The fear that had kept the Empire in power for so long threatened to tear their fledgling alliance apart. Chen slammed her hand down on the podium, the sound cutting through the chaos. This is exactly what the Empire would have done, panic and retreat. But we're better than that. Each of your species has survived conquest and subjugation. You've all developed strengths and technologies the Empire never fully understood. Together, we might have a chance to stop this. The Arcturian leaders' crystalline form pulsed with agreement. The Empire built their power on the ruins of the Ancient One's technology. Perhaps we can use their own machines against them, just as humanity used the Empire's technology against them. Dr. Patel's hologram brightened. The nanites, if we could modify them to interface with the ancient machine's base code. We wouldn't need to destroy them. We could reprogram them, just like we did with the Empire's neural networks. But we'd need to get close enough to deploy the nanites, Chen pointed out. And right now, nothing can survive on those transformed worlds. The Vega representative floated forward, their gaseous form swirling with excitement. We can survive there. Our environmental suits can be modified to carry your nanites. We could act as delivery systems. One by one, the species in the chamber began offering their unique capabilities. The Proxima archivists had detailed records of the Ancient One's language patterns, crucial for reprogramming their machines. The Arcturians could build ships capable of approaching the transformed worlds. Even the smallest delegations had something to contribute. Chen watched as the former victims of the Empire's oppression came together, pooling their knowledge and resources. This was what the Empire had never understood: true strength came from cooperation, not domination. We have 3 weeks, she announced. 3 weeks to combine our technologies, train our forces, and prepare our counterstrike. The Ancient Ones built their machines to transform our worlds. Instead, we're going to transform their machines. The summit chamber, so recently filled with fear and chaos, now hummed with purpose. Dr. Patel's team began immediate work with the Proxima archivists to decode the Ancient One's programming language. Arcturian shipwrights started modifying their designs to accommodate the needs of multiple species. The Vega entities began training for their crucial delivery role. As the various delegations broke into working groups, Chen received an urgent communication from Earth. The ancient machines had been detected at the edge of human space. The timeline had just gotten shorter. Dr. Patel, she called, how quickly can you have the first batch of modified nanites ready? With the Proxima data? 48 hours. But we'll need to test them. Chen looked out at the massive shipyards, where Arcturian vessels were already being modified for their mission. We don't have time for testing. Every world that falls makes their pattern stronger. We'll have to trust in each other's capabilities. The Empire had ruled through fear of the unknown, hiding the truth about the Ancient Ones and their machines. Humanity's strength came from facing that unknown together, combining the knowledge and abilities of multiple species to face a threat greater than any of them could handle alone. As Chen watched the various species working together, she realized that the Empire's greatest weakness hadn't been their technology or their arrogance, it had been their inability to trust, to cooperate, to see strength in diversity. Humanity's supposed weakness, their willingness to work with others, was about to become the galaxy's greatest hope for survival. The Crucible. The modified Arcturian dreadnought, Unity, dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of what had once been the Proxima colony. Admiral Chen watched the sensor readings with growing concern. In just 2 weeks, the ancient machines had transformed the once thriving world into something alien and hostile. Environmental analysis complete, reported the Vega entity floating beside her, its gaseous form swirling with nervous energy inside its containment suit. Atmospheric composition matches predicted patterns. Surface temperature exceeds 500 degrees Celsius. The transformation is nearly complete. Dr. Patel's voice came through the ship's communication system, transmitted from her secure facility back in the Arcturus shipyards. The nanite swarms are ready for deployment. Each Vega volunteer carries enough to theoretically reprogram every machine on the surface. But Admiral, we still don't know if they'll work. The stakes couldn't be higher. 49 worlds had fallen now, each one bringing the ancient machines closer to completing their mysterious pattern. The coalition fleet assembled around the Unity represented the largest gathering of ships since the fall of the Empire, but they were still painfully aware of their disadvantage. The machines had never lost a battle. Signal the other ships to maintain position, Chen ordered. Begin deployment of Vega teams on my mark. The Unity's massive hangar bay opened, revealing rows of specially modified drop pods. Inside each one, a Vega entity floated in its reinforced containment suit, carrying millions of reprogrammed nanites. The Proxima archivists had worked tirelessly to translate their ancient records into usable code, but there had been no way to test their work. This would be their only chance. Admiral, the ship's Arcturian engineer called out, their crystalline form flickering with concern, we're detecting energy buildups on the surface. The machines, they know we're here. Chen had expected this. The machines had never been truly mindless, they were following ancient protocols, preparing the galaxy for their creator's return. And they recognized threats to their mission. All ships, defensive positions, she commanded. Launch Vega teams now. Operation Prometheus is go. The drop pods streaked toward the transformed surface of Proxima Colony, each one carrying hope in the form of microscopic machines and the brave beings who volunteered to deliver them. The ancient machines responded immediately, launching waves of defensive units into the atmosphere. Multiple hostile contacts, the tactical officer reported. They're different from the previous encounters. These appear to be specifically designed for aerial combat. Chen watched as the machines engaged their fleet. The coalition ships, modified with Arcturian technology and human innovations, held their own against the onslaught, but they were only a distraction. Everything depended on the Vega teams reaching the surface. First wave of pods has landed, reported the mission coordinator. Vega teams are deploying nanites. Wait, something's wrong. The surface of the planet seemed to come alive, massive structures rising from the transformed landscape. They weren't just machines, they were part of a single, planet-wide system, all connected, all working together with terrifying efficiency. The nanites aren't penetrating their outer layers, Dr. Patel's voice was tight with concern. The machines have adapted. They're generating some kind of electromagnetic field that's neutralizing our approach. Chen slammed her fist on the command console. The Empire's records had hinted at the machine's ability to adapt, but they'd hoped to have more time. Dr. Patel, options. The Proxima archives mentioned something, a resonance frequency that the Ancient Ones used to control their machines. If we could reproduce it. The ship's power cores, the Arcturian engineer interrupted, their crystalline form brightening with inspiration. If we modify them to emit that frequency, we could create a gap in their defenses. But it would mean shutting down our shields. Chen looked at the tactical display. More machine units were launching from the surface every second. Without shields, the fleet would be devastated. But if they did nothing, the Vega teams, and their mission, would fail. How many ships would we need to create a large enough resonance field? At least 3 capital ships, positioned in a triangular formation above the largest machine concentrations. Chen made her decision. Signal the Arcturus Dawn and the Vega Sentinel. Tell them to form up on our position. All other ships, concentrate fire on any machines that target those vessels. The 3 massive ships moved into position, their power cores beginning to emit the ancient frequency. The effect was immediate, and devastating. Machine units near the ships began to falter, their coordinated movements becoming erratic. But the ships themselves were now vulnerable, taking heavy damage from the endless waves of attackers. Vega teams reporting success, the mission coordinator shouted. The nanites are penetrating the machine's defenses. Beginning reprogramming sequence. But victory wouldn't come easily. The machines, recognizing the threat, launched everything they had at the three defenseless capital ships. The Unity's hull screamed under the assault, entire sections beginning to break apart. Hull breach on decks 5 through 8, reported the damage control officer. Power core stability at 60% and falling. Chen watched as the Arcturus Dawn's crystalline hull shattered under the onslaught, its crew evacuating in emergency pods. The Vega Sentinel was in even worse shape, its once elegant form now a twisted wreck of burning metal. "How much longer do you need?" she demanded. "The reprogramming is at 70%, Dr. Patel responded. "But Admiral, we're detecting similar energy signatures from the other transformed worlds. They're all connecting, all becoming part of the same network. If we don't complete the reprogramming soon." The Unity shuddered as another volley of machine weapons found their mark. Emergency sirens blared throughout the ship as systems began to fail. But on the surface below, something was changing. The machines affected by the nanites were turning on their unchanged brethren, the virus-like programming spreading through their connected networks. 80%, 85%. Dr. Patel counted down as the Unity's power core began to destabilize. 90%. "All hands, prepare for emergency evacuation," Chen ordered, but she remained at her post. Everything depended on maintaining the resonance field for just a few moments longer. The tactical display showed the battle raging across the surface of Proxima Colony. The reprogrammed machines were multiplying exponentially, turning the Ancient One's own network against them. But the unchanged machines fought back with equal ferocity, recognizing that their mission was in jeopardy. 95%. The Unity's power core went critical, alarms screaming throughout the dying ship. Chen held her position, watching as the percentage climbed higher. They had come too far to fail now. Reprogramming complete. Dr. Patel's triumphant voice cut through the chaos. The nanite code is spreading through their network. All machines on the surface are responding to new protocols. Chen finally allowed herself to breathe. "All hands, abandon ship. Get to the escape pods now." As she made her way to the last remaining pod, she watched through the Unity's failing viewports as the surface of Proxima Colony began to change again. The machines, now under their control, were beginning to reverse their transformation of the planet. But their victory had come at a terrible cost. The Unity, along with 2 other capital ships and countless smaller vessels, had been sacrificed to achieve their goal. The Coalition fleet had been devastated. As her escape pod launched into space, Chen received a priority transmission from Dr. Patel. "Admiral, the reprogrammed machines are connecting to the network spanning all 49 transformed worlds. The code is spreading, but there's something else. The pattern they were creating, it's not just a key. It's a message." Chen listened as Dr. Patel explained what the Proxima archivists had discovered in the machine's base code. The Ancient Ones hadn't been preparing for their return, they had been trying to warn the galaxy about something far worse that was coming. The transformed worlds hadn't been a key to let something in. They had been building a shield to keep something out. As rescue ships began recovering escape pods from the battle zone, Chen realized that their victory might have just exposed the galaxy to a threat even the Ancient Ones had feared. The real war, it seemed, was just beginning. Beyond the void. The war room deep within the Arcturus shipyards had changed dramatically in the month since the Battle of Proxima Colony. Representatives from every coalition species crowded around a massive holographic display showing the decoded message hidden within the Ancient One's machines. Admiral Chen stood at its center, her face illuminated by the swirling patterns of light that told a story older than any civilization in the galaxy. They called it the Void, the lead Proxima archivist explained, their telepathic words appearing as shimmering text. A force that exists between galaxies, consuming everything in its path. The Ancient Ones didn't flee, they sacrificed themselves to build a barrier, using their machines to transform entire worlds into a shield against the darkness. Dr. Patel's hologram nodded grimly. The pattern we disrupted, it wasn't just transforming worlds. It was rebuilding the barrier. The Empire found the machines, thought they were weapons, and locked them away. They never understood what they were really for. The holographic display showed a massive dark mass approaching the galaxy's edge, visible only by the stars it obscured. The Coalition's sensors, enhanced by combined technologies from a dozen species, had confirmed what the Ancient Ones had feared millions of years ago: the void was returning. "How long do we have?" Chen asked, though she already knew the answer. 3 months, the Arcturian chief engineer replied, their crystalline form dimmed with concern. "Perhaps 4. The barrier is failing faster now that we've disrupted the machine's original programming." The room erupted in worried discussions. The Coalition fleet had been devastated in the Battle of Proxima Colony. Even with the reprogrammed ancient machines helping to rebuild, they couldn't hope to transform enough worlds in time to restore the barrier. "Maybe we don't need to," Chen said suddenly, her voice cutting through the chaos. The Ancient Ones built their barrier because it was the only solution they could see. But we have something they didn't: unity. Every species in this room brings unique perspectives, unique technologies. Dr. Patel's hologram brightened. "The nanites. We've already proven they can interface with the ancient machines. If we could modify them further, combine them with other species' technologies." The Vega energy manipulation systems, one of their representatives added, their gaseous form swirling with excitement. "We could use them to enhance the nanites' range, create a network that spans the entire galactic border." One by one, species that had been enemies under the Empire began offering their technologies, their knowledge, their resources. The Arcturians' crystalline computing systems could process vast amounts of data. The Proxima archivists' understanding of ancient technologies could help them improve on the original barrier's design. "We're not just rebuilding a wall," Chen declared. "We're creating something new. Something that combines all of our strengths." The next 2 months were a blur of activity. The Coalition transformed the Arcturus shipyards into the largest manufacturing facility in known space. Former Empire worlds, their populations now free from both Imperial control and the ancient machines' original programming, contributed resources and volunteers. Dr. Patel's team worked tirelessly to modify the nanites, incorporating elements from every Coalition species' technology. The Vega entities provided crucial insights into energy manipulation. The Arcturians' crystalline computing matrices gave the nanites unprecedented processing power. But even as they worked, the void drew closer. The Coalition's long-range sensors showed it consuming everything in its path: stars, planets, even the light itself. The Empire's old territories reported increasing gravitational disturbances as the barrier continued to weaken. "We're ready for the first test," Dr. Patel announced 1 month before the void was due to reach their galaxy. The Coalition had constructed massive deployment platforms along the galaxy's edge, each one carrying billions of enhanced nanites. Chen stood on the command deck of the new flagship, Unity Reborn, watching as the first wave of platforms activated. The nanites, now infused with technologies from every Coalition species, spread out into space in vast, shimmering clouds. "Energy matrix stable," reported the Vega coordinator. "Beginning network initialization." The nanites began to link together, forming structures more complex and efficient than anything the Ancient Ones had designed. Rather than transforming worlds, they created a living network, adapting and strengthening itself continuously. "First contact with the void in 15 minutes, announced the sensor officer. Chen watched the countdown with growing tension. Everything they had learned, everything they had built together, would be tested in the next few moments. The Empire had mocked humanity's caution, never understanding that it had given them time to learn, to adapt, to prepare for challenges they couldn't imagine. The void reached the edge of their network. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the sensors exploded with activity. The nanites are responding. Dr. Patel's voice was filled with excitement. They're not just blocking the void, they're pushing it back. The combined technologies are creating a feedback loop that's actually forcing it to retreat. The Coalition's great experiment was working. The network of nanites, enhanced by the combined knowledge and technology of every species, was doing more than just defending against the void. It was actively repelling it, pushing back the darkness with the combined light of galactic cooperation. "We're detecting similar effects all along the border," reported the sensor officer. "The network is self-replicating, spreading to cover any gaps. The void, it's retreating." Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Empire had ruled through division and fear, keeping species separate and weak. Humanity's greatest contribution hadn't been their technology or their military strategy, it had been their ability to bring people together, to show that true strength came from cooperation. As the void retreated from their combined defense, Chen received reports from across the galaxy. The network was stable, self-maintaining, and growing stronger as it incorporated new refinements from every coalition species. They hadn't just survived, they had created something unprecedented in galactic history. "Send word to all coalition worlds," she ordered. "The barrier holds. But our work isn't finished." The Ancient Ones had sacrificed themselves to build their barrier. The Empire had risen and fallen without understanding the true threat. But humanity, working together with the very species they had helped liberate, had found a better way. "What now, Admiral?" asked the Arcturian engineer as they watched the network continue to strengthen. Chen looked out at the stars, now protected by the combined ingenuity of dozens of species working together. "Now we explore. There are more galaxies out there, more civilizations that might face the same threat." The Empire looked at the stars and saw things to conquer. "We look at them and see new friends we haven't met yet." The Empire had mocked humanity's fear, never understanding that it wasn't fear that defined them, it was how they responded to it. By facing their challenges together, by combining their strengths rather than exploiting weaknesses, they had achieved something even the Ancient Ones couldn't accomplish alone. As the Unity Reborn turned away from the now secure border, Chen gave the order that would begin humanity's next great adventure: "Take us into the unknown. There's a whole universe out there waiting to meet us." The Empire's age of conquest was over. The Ancient One's age of sacrifice was past. A new age had begun, one built not on fear or dominance, but on cooperation, innovation, and the simple truth that even the greatest challenges could be overcome when faced together. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, other civilizations waited to learn what the Empire had learned too late, that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology or their weapons, but in their ability to bring people together, to turn ancient enemies into allies, and to face the unknown not with fear, but with hope.